if you're 45 and older and you are trying to get it right, I think this is the one for you. I had such a great conversation with Michelle Ward, and we talked about like nutrition and self-sabotage and reprogramming your brain and all of that kind of stuff. So, if you're somebody who is 45 and older, especially if you're a woman and you're like, it's too late or I can't or this is a hard struggle, blah, 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 this is the episode for you because she dropped a lot of wisdom here. And even we talked about like, how does somebody start? What does somebody do? Where would we go from here? That kind of stuff. So go ahead and watch the episode. Tell me what you think. Make sure you leave a comment or something so I know, okay, that you watch and so that I can answer any questions that you have. But I'll link all of Michelle's info below. All right, let's go. What's up, y'all? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. And I'm so excited that you're here today. I want to just take a moment to say thank you so much for all of you who listen on the podcast, but who also are subscribing to the YouTube channel. I just cannot believe the momentum that we've had. I think it's like, I don't even know, but I just know the downloads have been incredible. I think we're like at 120, 130, something like that. It's just crazy. And I'm so grateful for you. And I just know that you come on here to listen to these amazing human beings that I bring on this show that grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. And today I'm thrilled to welcome this woman. I had such a good conversation with her when we met. I really love her energy and what she's about. Her name is Michelle Ward, and she is a remarkable voice in the holistic health space. And I freaking love that, right? Anything that gets us moving forward and getting better. Now, Michelle's journey from facing her own fertility struggles to transforming her life through nutrition and subconscious reprogramming. That is so powerful. And I want to touch on that with you, Michelle. This has really shaped her unique approach as a certified holistic health coach. Now, her story is one of resilience, having overcome personal challenges and weight and alcohol, relationships, leading her to create a coaching method that helps women, listen up, y'all, over 45, reignite their inner vitality. I'm a woman that's over 45. I'm 52. Michelle, it does get more of a struggle as you get older. And some of it is mindset and some of it is just not knowing. So I'm so grateful that you're here because I love everything about you. I know that you are about empowering and really transforming the mind, the body, the spirit. And I'm really grateful for you. So welcome to Straight Talk, Michelle.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. I really am. I know that you've gone through a plethora of things that now you're helping people with. And I love that, right? I love that when we have gone through things in life, we don't just keep the process to ourselves, but that
Hmm.
we help a fellow person get ahead, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So I want to start with a little bit more about you. So tell us a little more about you, Michelle. I'd like to know more.
Well, let's see. I have been a coach since around 2010, but my journey really started in 1999 when I was trying to get pregnant. And you kind of touched on that. Allopathic ways weren't working and methods weren't working. So somehow I ended up in holistic nutrition. The internet was very new then. I did all this research and my life changed dramatically. I felt better. I was able to get pregnant without
Mm-hmm.
medications. And I kind of went down this rabbit hole that seemed a little weird. I was kind of one of those pioneers of like, no, we don't want to eat, sweet and low, it's bad for you. And, kind of where, people were like, well, why would, the government say it's okay to eat aspartame, whatever. And so I've always kind of been an outlier, but I kind of like being that outlier. But it kind of, as I started coaching people, I would get repeat customers and I was like, no, I'm trying to like what my goal is to empower you to do the thing and kind of fly out of the nest and not come back home to the nest like the mama bird. And so what I started figuring out is people had the wrong, it was more of a like I want to just lose weight or for a thing like a vacation or before Christmas or whatever. And it wasn't really a mindset. It wasn't like they weren't really in touch with their why. So I really started studying mindset around 2016. and started applying it to my own life. And it's so funny to look back at my journals and how the things I was writing about then versus the things that I'm learning now. And I didn't really understand it, but I understood that there was something to it. But then I started understanding about subconscious programming, and then you wonder, like, well, what do you do about subconscious programming? What is that?
Right.
That's when I got into self-sabotage and reprogramming those subconscious beliefs that lead to self-sabotaging behaviors. So
I
that
love
is
that.
kind of my journey to where I am now.
I really love that though, right? I mean, I love when, because I think out of all of that, right, the first thing that has to happen is self awareness. Like
Yes.
you actually have to be self aware. What was that moment for you when you like, okay, I can't get pregnant. This is getting very difficult. Like there has to be another solution. Was that the catapult forward, or was there like a moment or a time that you just realized this is not working and I need to change it?
Well, what wasn't working is I was on fertility drugs, and it literally made me crazy. Like,
Got it.
I'm not kidding you, it changed my brain, and I was just not who it, like, brought out all these things. I was, like, angry, and, you know, I knew it was the medications, but, so I was like, "There's gotta be something else. I can't be like this for, indefinitely," and they weren't working, and so I I don't know how it honestly, it was like divine intervention. I was at work one day, and I was on a break, and I was on the computer, and I was looking at up fertility without drugs or something like that. And some person came up. I can't even remember her name, but it was on holistic nutrition. I'm like, well, what is this holistic nutrition thing? And it all made sense, like getting rid of sugar and processed foods. I mean, it's small things, and so I started doing that. Within 3 months, I got pregnant. Now, was that the catalyst for, or was that the thing that, helped me to get pregnant and have a healthy child? Or was that just the catalyst for what was to come, over the next 25 years?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So, talk to me about holistic nutrition. Let's touch that a bit because that means so many things. I think, right, for
mhm,
so many people. As you know right now, because when you were in the online space, there wasn't as much noise as there is right now.
right,
Right.
right.
And so it's same thing with the aspartame and all that kind of stuff. I remember
Mhm,
when I was like getting off of sugar, I was on Atkins, the whole thing,
mhm,
and I started using that, but I got sick. Like my stomach was always hurting. I had, gastro problems. Like,
mhm.
I got sick off of that stuff. So I had to stop taking it. But talk to me about what that looks like for a woman over 40. What does that look like to have a holistic nutrition?
Well, I think that you made a good point, is that there's so much information out there, and you can just like get overwhelmed, and then you're like,
Yeah,
just forget it. I'm not doing it because,
yeah,
but if you can look at it simplistically, holistically, but in a simple way, it's just drinking clean water, getting good sleep, eating your fruits and vegetables, and hopefully organic if you have access to it, eating clean meats, eating clean eggs, eating clean. But you can get so caught up in the
yeah,
minutia and
yeah,
like all these supplements. You have to have these supplements and these superfoods and all that stuff. That's not where you start. That might be where you end, or where you go down the line. But right now, if you could just think, removing sugar and processed foods, diet coke, or diet sodas or regular sodas, alcohol is a huge thing, and we can touch on
yeah,
that a little bit. That was my Achilles heel for so long, that kept me stuck. um, and just things like that. If you It's not about giving up your life, and it's not about like never having a birthday cake again, or going out to dinner again. But if you can really, I have the 80/20 rule whenever I was working solely on nutrition. If you can do it 80% of the time, eat this way, and 80% of the time, the other 20% of the time, enjoy life. But what happens eventually is the things that you think are enjoyable, like cake or cookies or alcohol or whatever, they become less enjoyable because you
mm,
realize how bad you feel whenever
Right.
you eat
Right.
those things.
Yeah, I was actually gonna point that out. I was gonna say, where did we get that anyway? Was it messaging from, the big, big conglomerates out there that want you to eat junk food, right? Where did we get that eating well isn't enjoyable? Like I mean, I remember growing up like that, right? As soon as like we had vegetables, ew, vegetables, like that kind of
Mhm.
thing. It's like, where did that come from? Because way back in the day when it was all about farming and it was all about cooking at home and it was all about that's what you ate. You ate really good food, really nutritious stuff. Everybody ate it and enjoyed it. Where did
Right.
that come from, Michelle? Like how do we change that? Because you talked about how you had to reprogram your subconscious
Mhm.
to stop self-sabotaging, right? And that's the journey I am on, you know?
Right.
And I'm really like sometimes you have those really hard strong moments and then you do self-sabotage,
Mhm.
right? So talk to us about that. Like you said, you also your Achilles heel was alcohol. That
Mhm.
happens to be a lot of people's Achilles heel because it's acceptable, right?
Right.
If it's like nobody thinks anything when you're eating cake or cookies or drinking alcohol, it's acceptable,
Mhm.
so and even though sugar is a drug. I'm sorry because I
Yes.
am seriously addicted to sugar. Like I'm like weaning off of it, and even if I have one thing, it ruins my whole day. Like I
Yeah.
really feel like I have to have sugar the whole day. It's terrible, right? So
Right.
let's talk about that. Let's dig into that a little bit.
Well, it does go back to programming. I think slowly but surely over the last 50, 60 years, we have been programmed to think that food made in a lab is just as healthy
Yeah,
for you as food
yeah.
that you grow. And we're less likely to grow our food anymore because we're busy doing other
Sadly,
things.
very
And
sadly. Yeah.
um, yeah, so I think it's been a subtle thing over the years. I remember I was born in 1970, but I remember growing up and we just didn't have junk food in the house. Like I don't know if it was expensive or what, but I learned how to cook whenever I was like 10 years old. My mom would have me and my or me cook while she was at work and things like that. And it was all fresh food, and so that's another thing is that we've gotten so out of the habit of cooking food. Bad Food is just so accessible now through I was talking to I was walking with a friend yesterday, and I was just blown away that she had some food delivered to her by a drone. And I was
Oh
like,
wow.
"You're kidding me," like, and she
Wow.
videoed it and all this stuff. And I was like, "That's where we're going." It's just
That's
so
crazy.
so crazy. And
Yeah.
and then the food companies, I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist, and I have been for quite a while. Is the food companies are involved with not involved, but the pharmaceutical companies, the food
Yeah.
companies are
That's
all.
not even conspiracy anymore,
Yeah.
Michelle. That's so exposed now. Like, and I'm glad. I'm so glad it's exposed because we can go down that rabbit hole. That's a big rabbit hole to go down, right?
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I think, and I mean, think about just like the commercials and all of that. Like all of that is entwined because if you eat unhealthy and you're sick, you're really making them both very, very wealthy. You know
Right.
what, Michelle? I was thinking about something while you were talking too, because it made me think about how I grew up, right? I was very much, we were like in poverty, right? My mother was on welfare, all that kind of stuff. She did cook, like rice and beans and food at the house. She did.
Mhm.
But we had a lot of junk food, Michelle, a lot of junk food. And, I think part of it is not knowing, like my mother wasn't into nutrition. She didn't know. And I think part of it is also that mindset that happens when you're at a lower, economy level, right?
Mhm.
Because around us, we had a supermarket up the street. So I'm not going to say we were in a big food desert. We had a supermarket up the street, right?
Mhm.
But we had a lot of sugar cereals. We had a lot of Kool-Aid. We had a lot of like stuff that was really detrimental. Like when I was getting abused as a child, to get that satisfaction or something in my brain of like pulling that out, I would go and eat sugar, like
Yeah.
literally spoonfuls of sugar,
Mhm.
right? And it's sad. It's sad that that happens, but at the same time, I see how that now is like ingrained in the
Yeah.
brain. It's
Yes.
ingrained. Yeah.
That is subconscious
Yeah.
programming, which comes,
Yeah.
from our culture, our society, our parents, our friends, and
Yep.
mostly happens from the age of, well, actually in the third trimester up through age 7.
7.
And
Mhm.
then, those patterns are repeated and repeated and repeated and ingrained into our brains. And actually, it's the subconscious programming happens at that young age as a tool for survival.
Yeah.
And so we learn how to survive.
Yep.
If we're being abused and then sugar makes us feel better, that was a
Yep.
survival tool. It served us well back then, but as
Yeah.
adults, it doesn't serve us well anymore.
So
And
true.
being able to identify those triggers is really difficult,
Yeah.
unless you have a process that you can go through and somebody that can show you, like, these are the patterns I see that happen from age 8 until now. And this is why you might do this. And this is why you might do this. And
Mhm.
this is
Mhm.
how we deprogram it. And so that's
That's
essentially what
so
I do
good.
with my clients.
Yeah, and I wanna get into that now.
Yeah.
I'd love to know, how you're working with your clients, right? Because, in my podcast right now, I think it's like 60% women, right? So and they're women who are really out there doing their thing. They're entrepreneurs, solopreneurs,
Mhm.
just really doing their thing. So I know as a woman who has always strive to be the director, strive to be like the best in the company, strive. I
Yeah.
put my health and all that last, Michelle. That was not
Mhm.
important, right? It was important, but it wasn't, right? It was more important to
Right.
go to work for 14 hours and do my job. So I want you to speak to the women who are listening. Like, tell us about your program. What does that look like to work with you? How do you structure that? Let's get into that.
Yeah. So first it starts with a discovery call, a 30 or 45-minute call, so we can kind of get to know each other and see if we're a good fit. Um, you know, I I really want to work with people who are committed to committed to themselves and committed
Yeah,
to getting better, because like I said, I've had a lot of people come and go just through the nutrition coaching, where they really weren't committed to themselves. They were doing it for other people, or
yeah.
for for this vacation or whatever coming up, or for this wedding coming up, or this, whatever. And so that's probably where I would start. And I'm a very transparent person, and so I will share my story, and I can relate to my clients very well, because we've all had struggles. I think,
Yeah,
and it's hard to talk about those struggles because, like, we feel like we're the only one, but I promise you, you're not. Uh,
totally not.
and it's so the discovery call is first, and then we decide what is best for you. Are you just really looking for some holistic wellness guidance, because that's one package? Are you looking for where you're self-sabotaging and you just want to know what it is and have a quick solution, and you know how to eat, you know how to do all the things in the lifestyle, you don't really need that extra holistic wellness guidance? That's another thing that I would do. That's really 2 sessions. But the third is actually purpose discovery coaching, and it includes the self-sabotage analysis and the holistic wellness guidance. And so it's a little bit longer of a program. And so, just to kind of give you an idea of what the self sabotage analysis looks like, it's a pretty in depth questionnaire that asks questions and wants you to kind of go deep on, why is it that you're here? Like, what is it you're trying to do here? Um, what are your what are like, tell me about your story. Tell me your how it was growing up. What are some things that you remember? What are some things that your mom and dad did or said to you that made a lasting impact? So it's a lot of that. So I tell people it's going to take probably 2 hours to fill out this questionnaire and to be as vulnerable and
I love
transparent as
that.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not going anywhere. It's just between you and me. And then I will analyze it. It takes me probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours to analyze, come up with some solutions, and then we meet and discuss that over a couple of different sessions that last about an hour and a half each. So,
Is
but
it
then
is it like do they work with you like 12 weeks, 6 months, 12 months? Like, how does that look like?
Yeah. So the self-sabotage only, just the analysis would be over a 2-week period, 2 to 3
Okay.
week period.
Okay.
The purpose discovery, which is the self-sabotage analysis plus the holistic wellness, is about 8 weeks. And I, I say that, but it could be longer. I'm not going, I'm not going to just say you have to pay me more and I'm letting you go, because I just don't think I, it
I'm the
takes,
same. I'm the
it
same.
takes
Yeah.
some people a little bit longer, and it's a lot. It's a lot of information to take in. It's
It's
a
life
lot.
transforming. You're
It
transforming a
is.
life.
It
Yeah.
is. So
Yeah.
I'm available, in between through email, through text, and things like that. So um, I used to work with clients, like it used to be like a 6-month program, but that seemed to be too much and too long. But I just work with people wherever they are at. So,
Okay. Well, then, yeah, I know we're almost getting to the end, but before we do that, I do want you to like give maybe somebody who's listening like a tip, a tool, something, right? Whether I think you said in the beginning, like, maybe getting rid of sugar, reducing sugar, things like that. But let's get into how somebody can start transformation, right?
okay.
With the self sabotage, with the nutrition part, whatever. Let's give them something to walk away with, to chew on, right? So
Yes.
give me a like one or two things that you would give my audience right now to just get their journey started.
Okay, well, let me just kind of start, like, about 5 years ago with myself. I started noticing some things in my life that I didn't like. Okay, so I was over drinking. I, I don't know. There was just attitudes I had towards people, or I was making assumptions about things, or I had expectations of others that no one could, ever live up to. And slowly, over about a year, and into 2020, those things really amplified. And it, probably had a lot to do with what was going on in 2020. But
Mhm.
um, I mean, my entire world just started crumbling around me. I, and I'm not, I can't even, if I if I told you everything, it would take too long. But my dad died, and that was
Mm.
really
Mm.
difficult because I didn't have a great relationship with him. And after he died, I regretted a lot of, things, unsaid things. My marriage was just crumbling, and my husband decided that he didn't really want to be married anymore. And my children were really struggling. They were in college, and this whole 20, the whole mask thing, and the just isolation
Yeah,
and
it
all
was the
that.
yeah.
And so it was thing after thing after thing. And I remember looking up and just saying, okay, God, I know you got me. And I whatever it is that you want me to learn through this. So and I recognize that I was part of all this problem. And so I think that's the first thing, is that you
Mm.
recognize,
So good.
and you take responsibility for where you are in life.
So good.
You invite it into your life, whether you realize it or not. And that might sound crazy to people. But so first of all, there's self-awareness, and actually the second thing is that I was grateful. I was like, I know that this is for my good. I know this all, and I know that,
And it doesn't feel like it at the time, right, Michelle?
well, it doesn't feel like it at the time, but
No, it does not. Yeah.
I know enough from past experiences that there's always a lesson, there's always something to learn, and there's always something good that can come out of it. So if you can have
Yeah.
that attitude,
So good.
and then start think like the things that you're telling yourself. We've got that inner critic, that that person that's constantly,
Yes.
you look in the mirror and go, ugh. Well, why? Like, look at yourself in the mirror, smile, and tell yourself you love yourself. It is hard to do.
Yeah.
It was hard for me to do at first, but the more you do that, the more you start seeing things, more positive things in your life. And then when you start, that inner critic starts telling you something, ask yourself, is that true? And then start looking for the things that, because we've got this thing called confirmation bias. So we start looking for the things that make that true in our mind. Well, let's start
Yeah.
looking for the things that make that not true. So for example, I'm ugly, or or whatever. Well, is that really true? No, I really love the way my eyes look, and I like I like the structure of my cheeks. And you know what? I've got a really great personality, or a great smile. Start looking for the things that are opposite of what you're telling
Reinforce,
yourself.
got it. Mhm,
Hmm.
mhm.
So
Reinforce yeah, I love that you're doing that, right? Because you're telling them first become self-aware and then become self-aware, right?
yes,
Like,
yes.
it's really great. I love that.
Yeah. And you can't really love other people, or other people well, or serve other people well, if you don't love yourself. And that might sound very cliche, but it's so true.
So true.
And so how you do one thing in your life is how you do everything. So
Yep,
if you're self-sabotaging your own life, then it's going to trickle out into
yep.
other areas of your life.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%, Michelle. I've had now that I've taken more control of I want to be more healthier. I'm trying to be more conscious of what I'm doing, all that kind of stuff. My finances have also started to get better. So
Yeah.
it's like this thing, right? Like
Yeah.
you realize like, oh, I'm six figures, but I'm always broke. How is that possible? Well,
Right.
because you're not taking care of your health, so you're not taking care of your finances, so you're not
Hmm.
taking care of your car, so you're not taking care of your home. This is just true. It just
It
is.
is.
It just is. So like when my office looks clean and everything looks good, I start to feel better. My car starts getting washed more. I walk more, all that stuff. So you're right, Michelle. I think, start pausing and realizing that if there's a lot of chaos going on in your life, there are some things you can control and some things you can't. But the things you can control, control.
Yes,
Start
exactly.
having control. The things you can't control.
Right.
It just is. It's going to always be. And I was talking to a group of women and they were, I was telling them, I'm like, because she was saying, oh, this is just so bad. I was like, why is that so bad? Well, because, and I asked the person next to her, do you think that's bad? She's like, no. I said, exactly. We
Mhm.
add an emotion to the thing,
Exactly.
and she's
Yeah.
like, oh, shoot, I never saw it like that. I'm like, yeah, you looked at this and said, oh, this is horrible. She looked at it and just said, no, that's not bad at all.
Right. Right.
And she's
It's
like,
a
oh,
matter of
shoot,
perspective.
it's
Mhm.
perspective.
It
I'm
is.
glad I'm getting older, wiser. I'm
Yes.
glad I'm taking the time. I wish I had this when I was in my freaking 20s, but
Me too.
it is what it
Oh,
is.
well, it's here now.
Right? Exactly. But thank you, Michelle. Thank you for like really, pouring that into them because my listeners are they know that we talk a lot about personal development and business and all that kind of stuff because it's life. It's life. Business, personal development, career, that is life. This is what we do, right? And so
Exactly.
that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you because you've been through some stuff, you've gone through some stuff, but you also know what you're talking about. And so I'm really grateful that you came on. I'm grateful that you poured into the community. Thank you so much for being here. But before I let you go, girl, there might
Yeah.
be somebody listening who's like, how do I get in contact with Miss Michelle? Michelle, give us that info.
So my website is Elan Vital dash coaching, and that's ELANVITAL dash coaching.com. You can go on there and book a discovery call. You can take a free self-sabotage quiz.
Yeah, I love
There are
that.
some downloads and resources that you are welcome to, you have access to, but just give me a click and set a time on my calendar, and I would love to talk to you.
Yeah. And I think, people should because don't self sabotage yourself, people. Don't self sabotage yourself and not do it. I mean, because that's, self sabotage is a real thing and it does come to sabotage you for real, like for
Yeah,
real,
it
you know?
does.
Yeah. And most of us, I speak to a lot of like very affluent people, billionaires, whatever. They don't play games. When they make a decision, it is done. Like they make a decision and within seconds the whole team is doing it. And I'm
Yes.
like there's no there's no like, oh, let me think about it for 20 days. And the reason they don't do that is because they know they even themselves will sabotage it.
Right.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
you have to make a quick decision. So if somebody's listening to you right now and really wants to connect, they need to just make the decision. Just go on the website, click on the thing, make a discovery call and just do it. Just like do it. It doesn't hurt, you
Well,
know?
and one thing I want to tell people is that a lot of people I work with are, women 45 and older, empty nesters, they've kind of given their life in service to their family, and kind of given up on their own dreams. And
Yeah.
at this point in life, this season of life, they're like, oh, what do I do? And it's too late to change. No, like I am
Mhm.
a living example of you can change at any point. You can do uh, the second season, this next season of life is the best because you got the wisdom, just like you were talking about,
That's
Nina.
right.
You've got the wisdom of the years, and then you can reinvent yourself. So that's what
That's
this is
right.
all about.
Yeah, Michelle, thank you for being here. I appreciate
Thank
you.
you
I
so
really
much for
love it.
having me.
Guys, make sure that you follow her. I'm going to link all the information below because I really don't want you to self sabotage yourself or wait or procrastinate. All of those things are signs. You know what I'm saying? When you're procrastinating too much, when you are
Mhm.
waiting on things too much, when you overthink things, when you're a hyperachiever, when you're all those things, there's something rooted and underlying going on. Let me tell you, hyperachievement is an issue because it is a self sabotage thing. You think you have to keep hyperachieving. That's
Right.
not true, right? Like all of these things, I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in our mind. And I love learning about this stuff because it just makes you, better. It makes you wiser. It makes you tougher. You see things differently. Not everything is destructive and destroying you the way you think, like when we get all dramatic, like, oh, my whole day is ruined because
Yes.
you didn't have the right latte. Are you kidding me? You know what? So make sure that you connect with Michelle. I love you guys so much. Thank you for sharing, subscribing. You know the drill. I really appreciate you. This is Nina Perez, Straight Talk, no sugar added.